Christian Horner just dropped a bombshell on Sergio Perez, claiming that he had no reason not to pursue Max Verstappen through the field and collect important points at the Brazilian Grand Prix, further fueling the rumours about an exile from the squad. The disappointment even came after Perez changed chassis in Brazil at his request in an attempt to recover his form, but he then only qualified 13th for the dry sprint race before finishing 8th in the 24-lap race. Perez started 12th after another Q2 elimination in qualifying, this time just a spot behind teammate Verstappen before the three-time champion's 5-place grid penalty. Despite an early spin, a duel with potential successor Liam Lawson, and a red flag delay, the Mexican was only able to gain one position by the end of the race. This was in sharp contrast to Verstappen, who somehow returned from 17th on the grid to win his first race since the Spanish GP. And this might have been the one race that sealed Perez's fate, according to Horner. "It was a difficult race for Checo," Horner said in the aftermath. "Spinning at the beginning of the race drops him down. It was an opportunity, in the constructors, to take a big chunk out of both Ferrari and McLaren, and unfortunately, we've not been able to capitalize on that. Obviously, that's frustrating, but we'll go away and have a look at it, and come back hopefully fighting hard in Vegas." When asked if there was a technical issue holding Perez back from matching Verstappen's charge through the pitch, Horner replied, "Not that I'm aware of. There was nothing evident to me in the race." The inability to score points while McLaren and Ferrari remained ahead of Red Bull in the constructors' standings despite Verstappen's punishment has put more pressure on Perez, whose future remains uncertain. When asked if Red Bull had reached the stage where a driver change was necessary, Horner responded, "Everything in life is subjective. You've got to look at the facts. We're working hard with Checo. He had a chassis change this weekend. I thought he drove a good sprint race, but the Grand Prix wasn't his day. All of this has led to Red Bull actively seeking a new driver for their second seat. For example, Horner was spotted in the Williams hospitality during the Brazil GP. However, it was not for Sainz as many think. It was for Colapinto, and not for a V-carb seat either. Red Bull's interest in Franco Colapinto extends to considering him for an immediate spot alongside Max Verstappen, making him and Liam Lawson the main candidates to replace Sergio Perez in the Formula One squad. Though Perez has a long-term deal with Red Bull and has been angered by speculations that he may be dismissed, the company is eager to do just that. The drop in the Constructors' Championship is primarily due to Perez's performance. He is firmly ranked last among the top 4 teams' 8 drivers, despite the fact that Mercedes has been in a state of flux in performance since the summer break. So, a change is not coming unexpected, however the main target is. Colapinto was already on Red Bull's radar, but it was previously assumed that he would join Yuki Tsunoda at RB if Lawson was promoted. He is on a long-term deal with Williams, which he had to sign in order to receive this F1 opportunity for the remainder of the year, but he will not be able to race in F1 after the end of 2024, since Carlos Sainz will be joining Alex Albon. However, Colapinto's performances with Albon received recognition. There were some negotiations with Sauber. Red Bull's interest is widely documented, and another team, believed to be Alpine, has also made contact for a loan deal, though it's unclear why, considering Alpine signed Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan for next year. Red Bull is Colapinto's greatest opportunity to get on the grid. It has 2 places to fill for next year, and appears to be skeptical that its own prodigy Isaac Hadjar is ready for F1. As a result, it is willing to contemplate relocating for someone else's junior driver position. "Franco's another talent," Horner stated in Brazil. "You're always keeping an eye on the market, how things are developing. If the data from the last 3 races is favourable, Colapinto may be able to start immediately at Red Bull Racing." Red Bull is unsure whether Lawson's qualifying pace will be sufficient to be Verstappen's teammate, but it is impressed with his performance level and confidence thus far. That's comparable to Colapinto, whose mindset, as well as his pace versus Albon, have piqued Red Bull's interest. The way he jumped into F1 with little training and was competitive right away demonstrates the resilience that Red Bull believes is required of elite drivers. To create a lasting impact, Colapinto must shake from a crash-filled Brazil Sunday, which included a massive shunt under the safety car, and return to his point-scoring form. Horner spoke with Williams team principal James Vowles in Brazil, which, although consistent with the known Colapinto interest, generated speculation in the Interlagos paddock that Red Bull may be attempting to contact Sainz before he moves to Williams. However, this is not in the cards. Red Bull has had an ugly recent history in the driver market, but it is not so chaotic that it would spend an 8-figure price to get a driver who was a free agent only a few months ago and was awaiting a Red Bull offer at the time. It stands by its decision to dismiss Sainz, fearing a recurrence of the internal strain that occurred when he and Verstappen were teammates at Toro Rosso in 2015 and early 2016. Williams is also unlikely to have let Sainz's contract to include such an early exit provision, since the team would risk being left high and dry on the driver front in 2025. Furthermore, Vowles has praised Sainz so highly that releasing him, even for a hefty amount, would reflect poorly on Williams. Colapinto is different. Williams is presently demanding a hefty payoff to allow Colapinto leave, but whatever price it is set is said to be higher than Red Bull is ready to pay even to acquire him permanently rather than on loan. We're actively working with teams that are interested to try and find the right arrangement that helps Franco, that protects Franco as well and protects all parties, pointed out Vowles. It's never straightforward between Formula One teams because you're fighting on track and you're trying to find a solution for the career of a young man. He is earning his place. He needs to do more on track to keep earning his place, but he's shining, and that's why there's interest from teams. I have a responsibility both towards him and Williams, and hopefully we'll have some great news to be able to talk to everyone about. A settlement is expected before the season's final race. To achieve a favourable outcome, Williams must either drop its pricing or have a third party enable Colapinto's release. That might be where his supporters come in, especially if a Red Bull Racing seat is the prize. But there is still someone else within Red Bull's ranks who could also take over Perez's seat, Liam Lawson. Red Bull took in young reserve driver Liam Lawson after removing Daniel Ricciardo from the squad during the Singapore Grand Prix. Lawson excelled in a 5-race cameo as a replacement for Ricciardo last year, and he is now being considered for a full-time racing seat in 2025, either with RB or Red Bull instead of Perez. That process has begun quite nicely. Lawson scored points in his 2024 debut and again in Brazil last weekend. In between, he had a disputed fight with Perez in Mexico, then raced side by side with Perez in the Brazilian sprint race and the main event, which he finished ahead in. This appears to have made Lawson the top choice. While Lawson finished behind Tsunoda in the Interlagos Grand Prix, it was his third Grand Prix since replacing Ricciardo and 8th weekend overall. Horner was quick to praise Lawson, citing his super job over Tsunoda due to the experience disparity. Lawson always appeared to be a scoring danger in Brazil. He was the top RB driver in the sprint, battling Pierre Gasly and Perez for a points finish before being demoted to 9th position by the driver he hopes to replace next year. That was their second on-track brawl in less than a week, following a contentious encounter in Mexico, despite Perez driving a far quicker car. Their third battle came 24 hours later when Lawson defeated Perez in the Grand Prix. They had another wheel-to-wheel battle throughout the race, which left Perez significantly less enraged than in Mexico. The fact that the two drivers keep meeting on the track reflects more better on Lawson than it does on Perez, not least since he has won 2 of the 3 battles and is still seen as the favourite for the seat, given his status in the Red Bull family and his performance. What do you think? Will Red Bull bring in Colapinto? Or will they choose Lawson? Or even someone else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.